Hello, we're doing week 6 and starting off with chapter 10's PowerPoints. So welcome back. I'm sure this is beginning to get old hats. Everyone's used to going through this now, and we're week 6, so we're almost finished. Okay, so chapter 10 is managing teams. I know many students dread teamwork as far as group work, I should say, in school. Many do in work as well in your profession. And so this chapter tries to talk about ways of managing teams that might be beneficial, might assist you in actually making it a little bit more pleasant to do so. So let's look at what the chapter talks about. First things, explain the good and bad of using teams. Recognize and understand the different kinds of teams. Understand the general characteristics of work teams. Explain how to enhance work teams' effectiveness. One thing I will say right off the bat is that it uses the word team when it really should use the word group. Team is completely different than a group, even though they both have multiple people involved. Team has a key ingredient that has a lot of different ways of getting there, and it encompasses a lot of different things. I like to call it synergy. There's another term, cohesiveness, and there's many ways to get there, and not many groups actually achieve a team status. So when you see the word team, you really should replace it with the word group for most of the context of this chapter. Okay. A small number of people would be a work team, work group with complementary skills who are mutually accountable for pursuing a common purpose, achieving performance goals, improving independent work process. Help firms respond to specific problems and challenges. The advantages are increased customer satisfaction. You could say that because if you have a group of people that are global, whenever the customer calls, someone would be at work. You can have different schedules. If someone's in India, someone's in Europe, someone's in North America, you are on different time zones. So someone would be available 24 hours a day when it's really only their daytime wherever they're located. So that would be an increased customer satisfaction. Also, the different knowledge that each person brings increases customer satisfaction. And the same goes for product and service quality. The speed, again, goes with that. More people that are have different skills that are complementary skills increase the speed and efficiency. Um, Teamwork provides workers a chance to improve their skills through cross training. So if you are only trained in one thing, someone else can teach you how to do another thing, which makes you more valuable to your company or to another company. And share the benefits of group decision making so that you feel more confident in the decisions that you made because you have more than just yourself to rely on. The disadvantages: social loathing, initial high turnover because people don't get along, they don't want to be part of a team or part of a group, and so they find a way to get out of it. Um, Social loafing is team members withhold their effort and fail to perform, because the whole group is responsible. So as long as the whole group is responsible, then what does it matter if they are or not? Disadvantages of group decision making is group think. We talked about that in the last chapter. And minority domination. If you have one person who just dominates the entire group, then they're going to go along just because they don't want to have the aggravation or confrontation with the person, whether the person's right or not. So you can have an expert in their field of science or engineering or what have you, and someone that has a degree in finance is the one saying how things should go, even though finance may have nothing to do with the project. Oh, and there's J.C. Penney's buying time with a $17 million payment, even though they're declaring bankruptcy. Okay. Um, okay. If you want something interesting, look at the stock of J.C. Penney and write down or jot down how much it would have cost you to buy 1,000 shares of J.C. Penney, say back in 2000, and then see how much that's worth now. And you know why the stock market is much like a casino. When to use and when not to use teams, groups. When to use when it's clear, engaging reason, or has a purpose. The job can't be done unless people work together. Rewards can provide for teamwork and team performance, and ample resources are available. When not to is when it's clear, when there's no clear and engaging reason or purpose. The job can be done by people working independently. Rewards provided for individual efforts, and necessary resources are not available. Classification of the team based on autonomy. You have traditional work groups, two or more people working together to achieve a goal. Employee involvement, provide advice or make suggestions to management, more like consultings. And then semi-autonomous work groups, um, and they have authority to make decisions and solve problems related to major tasks in producing a product or service. Okay. Traditional work groups. Oh, no. I'm sorry. Factors that affect work team characteristics, norms, cohesiveness, size, and conflict. Okay. Um, the team norms informally agreed on standards that regulate the team behavior. If the norm is that the meeting starts at 8 o'clock and everybody's there at 10 of 8 and one person shows up at 8, well, that's not a norm. The same way if everyone shows up at 10 after 8, except one person, then that person didn't know what the norm is. Developed by observing team members. So if I observe that everyone shows up 10 minutes late, I'm going to start showing up 10 minutes late. Regulate everyday actions that allow teams to function effectively. Associated with positive and negative outcomes. So if everyone shows up at 10 of 8 and I show up at 8 and I get angry looks and people don't talk to me, then I'll know that I should come sooner. Develop around quality and timelessness of job performance, absenteeism, safety, honest expressions of ideas and opinions. Members of a team with negative norms are more likely to perform negative behaviors. So if it's just a griping session when you go into your meetings, then everybody comes out more negative than when they went in. Cohesiveness. This is what I called synergy, cohesiveness. They're synonyms in this case. Extent to which members are attracted to a team and motivated to remain in it. Okay. Ensure that all team members are present at team activities, meetings, creating additional opportunities for task and interdependence, engaging non-work activities. In other words, they like to be around each other and they depend on each other, and they feel an emotional attachment to the work and to the people, and they don't want to leave because they feel that they're part of something larger than themselves. It should be small enough for members to get to know each other. Obviously, if you have too big of a group, you're going to have people go into subgroups called cliques, and that usually doesn't work very well to create synergy or cohesiveness. Conflict arises from a disagreement over a team goal. Cognitive C-type focuses on the problem-related difference of opinion. A-type, emotional reaction that can occur because of personal disagreements. Reduced by using cognitive conflict to address work problems in a manner where it minimizes occurrence of conflict. Let's see if we could come down here. Enhancing work team effectiveness by setting team goals and priorities, selecting people for teamwork, team training, and then recognition and compensation. And again, it should be equal to performance. That's a lot of problems that if you're watching The Last Dance with about Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen had that problem where the compensation wasn't even close. He was one of the lowest paid players in the NBA when they had already won all those championships. And so, what did he do? He waited to the last minute to have surgery so that he sat out half a season. And the Bulls did terrible for that half of the season because he felt that he wasn't being recognized or compensated for his contribution to all those championships. And as a result, they didn't do well while he was out. Um, Specific team goals and priorities. Clarify team priority by providing a clear focus and purpose. Challenging team goals reduce the incidence of social loafing. Stretch goals, ambitions, work goals that workers do not know how to reach. It can be effective because you have a high degree of autonomy. You're empowered with control of resources and have structural accommodations and bureaucratic immunity. For example, if anybody ever watched, there's a documentary on Apple computers back in the 1983, 84 years. Um, and Steve Jobs created this exact setting by having one of the buildings completely isolated. And he handpicked the beginning of the team and he put them in there in this building and said to create something. And if they needed more people, he said, you can hire them. And so they hired people on a group basis. In other words, the entire group had to be agreeable to hire this person, whoever it was. And they had a Jolly Roger flag flowing over since they were the rebels of the Apple conglomerate, Apple family. And what came out of it was the Macintosh. And if you get an original Macintosh, and you take the case off, on the inside of the case is each one of those people's signatures that created the original Macintosh. And that is an awesome example of exactly what a team, how to create a team, and go through the conflict and the conflict resolution and the arguments and everything else. And then in the end, you create something that's incredible. It goes through interpersonal skills, problem solving, conflict resolution, technical training. Of course, they only hired people that were highly skilled in the areas that they were weak in, as they needed people to fill that gap. One of the examples they gave was that they would show someone something that they had just created, which today we would not even look twice at. But back then, it was huge, and they waited for the person's reaction. Now, it could have been something as simple as a small graphic or a click of the mouse that did something unique, because again, not many computers had a mouse to begin with. And they waited for their reaction. And if they didn't have a good, positive, excited reaction that was genuine, then they didn't hire them because obviously they didn't care about inventing or creating a new product or new technology or breaking new ground. And so they didn't want them as part of the group. And so it's skill-based pay, gain sharing, company shares financial rewards, and then of course there's non-financial rewards based on their agreements of it. And that's the end of chapter 10.